Chapter 3b. In her mind, she too had left the surface for the beautiful, mysterious underwater world, but the way the sunlight hit the waves and the darkness of the deeper water made it hard to follow her mother's progress. As Gina descended further, she became a murky figure to Jody. Jody could follow the rising stream of bubbles only with her eyes, focus on the bright yellow case of the camera, and try to imagine her mother's movements. Jody gazed around in search of the dolphin, wondering what he would make of this visitor to his world. He had been cruising in a gentle arcs around Dolphin Dreamer all morning, only occasionally zooming off at a high speed. Jody wondered if he was inviting them to give chase for a game of tag. Dolphins were known to be playful creatures, but where was he now? Then she saw a large, smooth, streamlined shape of the dolphin streaking along beneath the surface, heading straight for Gina. Jody caught her breath, suddenly nervous. It was such a big animal. Seeing it approaching her mother, she knew that all it would take was a careless switch of the tail or an accidental bump for damage to be done. If the air regulator got pulled out of Gina's mouth, or if she were knocked unconscious, she'd be in serious trouble. But just as it seemed that the dolphin was about to hit Gina, he veered away, shooting past her with a simple flex of his powerful body. Jody let out a relieved breath, seeing that they had never been anything to worry about. The dolphin had been in total control. It must have known to the inch or less how close he could come without actually touching his visitor. Echolocation, remember, said her dad, as if he'd read her mind. Even in deep, murky water, dolphins don't bump into things. Jody nodded. Echo what? Said Sean, frowning. Echolocation. Craig repeated, smiling. It means finding out where things are by using sound instead of sight. Sean still looked confused. Their father explained further. Dolphins find their way by making a sound that bounces off objects around them and comes back to the dolphin as an echo. From hearing this echo, the dolphin knows the location of whatever the sound wave have hit. I get it, said Jimmy, nodding. It's like bats using radar. Cool, said Sean, but he still looked puzzled. Are dolphins blind? Oh no, said Craig. It's just that sound is more useful to them underwater, but they can see all right. Have a look at that one, eyeing your mother. Jody gazed down into the water to where her mother was hovering, kicking her fins against the currents to stay in roughly one place as she aimed the camera at the dolphin. He was watching her with what looked like friendly interest, lying horizontally in the water, barely moving, facing Gina at first, then turning to lie on his side and gaze at her with one eye. Jody wished she could get a better view, but with the wind chopping the surface and her mother following the dolphin farther away from the side of the boat, it was hard to see anything in detail. Hey kids, you ought to come see this. Your mom's getting some great pictures. At their father's call, Jody, Sean and Jimmy all left their spots at the side to watch on the monitor instead. The dolphin's head almost filled the screen as he seemed to smile directly into the camera. Jody caught her breath in wonder. Her mother must be so close to him, close enough to touch. As she thought this, the dolphin loomed larger as the camera drew even closer, and then Gina's hand came into view. Jody held her breath, watching as the hand reached for the animal, but before contact could be made, the dolphin slipped away. He didn't go far. He might not be willing to be touched, but he was obviously too curious about Gina to leave. The dolphin circled, then rolled on his side. Then he rose up until he appeared to be standing on his tail. Jody wondered if he was imitating Gina's upright, two-legged stance. It was annoying not to be able to see everything. She wished she could be there, underwater, alongside her mother. It would be more interesting if we could see Mom. If we could see Mom too, and know what the dolphin was reacting to, she said. Somebody else should be underwater with them, and I think I know who that somebody should be, her father said teasingly. He patted her shoulder. You'll get your chance, honey. Don't worry. I didn't pay for your scuba diving lessons for nothing. Dr. Taylor had been standing back, just watching without comment. Now he said in his rather formal way, May I ask what you are hoping to learn by this exercise? Excuse me, said Craig. Why is Dr. McGrath filming this particular dolphin? Dr. Taylor asked. Because it's there, Craig said jokingly. Then, with an expression almost as solemn as Jefferson Taylor's round, moon-like face, he went on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be flippant, but didn't you read the Dolphin Universe prospectus? We are here to record our observations on all the dolphins we come across. Our video footage, still photos, and sound recordings will then form a database, which will be available to all interested researchers. Dr. Taylor rubbed his chin. Ah, yes. He seemed to be thinking hard. I will be conducting research too, while we're at sea, of course. Petroco will expect me to contribute something special. Yes, indeed. Nodding to himself, the scientist wandered away. Jody saw her father roll his eyes, and she was sure that Maddie was hiding a grin as she bent to turn up the sound on the hydrophone. Although the meeting between her mother and the dolphin had appeared to be silent from Jody's position above, now she could hear a steady stream of low clicks and occasional high-pitched squeaks. These sounds wouldn't carry into the air above, but no doubt her mother would hear them in the water. All too soon, the half hour was over, and Gina returned slowly to the surface. The dolphin followed, poking his head up through the waves and whistling at her. Pulling away her mouthpiece, Gina spoke to the dolphin. Don't worry, you haven't seen the last of me. She handed the camera to Craig, and the twins stretched out eager hands to help by taking her fins before she climbed up the ladder back onto the boat. I could have stayed down a bit longer, you know, she said wistfully. Sometimes I think you were a dolphin in a previous life, Craig teased. This wind is too good to miss, said Harry. Do you need to stay here any longer, or can we get under sail? That's fine with me, said Gina. Craig nodded at the video equipment. Just let us get this stuff down below. Maddie, we'd better pull in the hydrophone too, if we're going to be traveling at any speed. He turned back to his wife, the picture beautifully clear. Wait till you see it. Jody hung over the side and gazed at the dolphin. He seemed to be still waiting for something. That was my mum, she said. Next time it'll be me. I promise. She turned tensing as she saw Brittany come lurching onto the deck. I feel awful, the girl groaned to her father. She looked pale, almost greenish. Can't you make the boat lie still? It'll feel smoother once we're actually sailing, love. Harry promised her. We'll get going soon. Wait! Where are you going? He called as Brittany stumbled away again. Back to my cabin to lie down, Brittany replied. You'll feel worse if you go below, he warned her. Honestly, love, the best thing if you're feeling seasick is to stay on deck in the fresh air. You'd better not be making that up, Brittany muttered. Jody decided she didn't want to be around if Brittany was going to keep complaining or start being sick. With one more fond look at the friendly dolphin, she went below. She found her parents in the main cabin with Dr. Taylor and Maddie, getting ready to review the video. "There, look, he's mimicking my posture," said Gina. "Now you'll see the camera angle change. That's because I rolled onto my front to see if he'd do the same, and he did. He was great. Even though he wouldn't let me touch him, he was really interacting with me. We should think of a name for him," said Jody. Dr. Taylor looked surprised. "Oh, surely not," he said. "What's wrong with that?" demanded Gina. "It's a good suggestion." "Well, people name their pets," Dr. Taylor replied, "but that animal is not a pet. If you give it a name, you'll start imagining that it has a personality. Very unscientific." "I'm sorry, Dr. Taylor. I have to disagree," Gina said. "Scientists who study animals often give them names." Despite her mother's careful tone, Jody could tell that Gina was annoyed. "It makes it easier to talk about them without confusion," Gina continued. "I know we're only talking about one dolphin now, but in a few days. But surely numbers would do just as well for the identification and wouldn't encourage the wrong attitude towards the dolphins," Dr. Taylor argued heatedly. "They are scientific subjects to us, after all. They're not our friends." Now it was Jody's turn to disagree. "As far as I'm concerned, dolphins can be friends. Personally, I've always liked names better than numbers, and most people find them easier to remember," said Craig easily. Jody smiled gratefully at her father. "And I think Jody should choose a name, since she was the first to meet him," Craig concluded. "So do you have any ideas, honey?" Delighted, Jody gazed at the dolphin on screen. The underwater camera offered her a closer, clearer view than she had yet. For the first time, she noticed that the grey tones of skin were not quite as uniform as they first appeared. There was a distinctive marking on the upper right side of his snout, an odd curving shape that reminded her vaguely of old-fashioned harp. The harp made Jody think of music, of her recorder, which had first attracted the dolphin to the boat, and of the ancient Greeks with their flutes. In the 5th grade, her class had done a unit on Greek mythology. She remembered the stories about the gods and how each god had special characteristics. Suddenly, the perfect name slid into her mind. "Apollo," she said. "Apollo," Craig repeated, looking pleased. "The Greeks, gods of music." "That's right. Aren't there stories that he took the form of a dolphin sometimes?" Gina nodded. "Well done, Jody. It's a good name." Dr. Jefferson Taylor said nothing. And that's all for Chapter 3B.